Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. As usual with our City Council, we will begin with a prayer and then a pledge. And for those that would like to join me in prayer, bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord. We thank you that we have the citizens here representing our community. We thank you for all the blessings that you've given to us. We ask you be with us tonight as we deliberate our city business. Be with all our city workers as they're out there doing the job. Keep them safe and in your will. We ask this in your name. Amen. If you have a cell phone, you want to make sure you turn that down or put it on mute. This is just a friendly reminder. You'll see council members get caught every once in a while with that also. So just a friendly reminder to you. And I don't know, here it is. Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Councilmember Millen. Here. Councilmember Tibbs. Here. Councilmember Bench. Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Here. Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Bryant. Councilmember Balls. Councilmember Humphreys. Here. Mayor Browning. Here. We have 9 members present, 0 absent.
We just reminded the audience to refrain from the use of your electronic devices. Also refrain from speaking too loud to each other so that it does not interfere with our council meeting. And Madam Clerk.
I have a couple announcements this evening. The city asks that citizens refrain from parking on the street or at the end of driveways during and after heavy snow events to allow the crews to clear the snow away from the curbs. Also, City Hall will be closed Monday, January 15 for the Martin Luther King holiday. And next, Mayor, we have recognition of Valerie Hoffman for 23 years of service as President and CEO of the Underground Railroad.
And Ms. Hoffman, would you come up for me, please? Thank you. It's a great privilege and honor that council, on behalf of our citizens of Saginaw, have a certificate of recognition for you. And I'll read it as follows. Whereas, on behalf of the Saginaw City Council and the citizens of our city, I am proud to honor Valerie Hoffman for 23 years of faithful service to the city of Saginaw as President and CEO of the Underground Railroad. It is a privilege to extend this certificate of recognition to Ms. Hoffman for her dedication and commitment to the work of the Underground Railroad and to the citizens of this community. And whereas the Underground Railroad is the only provider in Saginaw County of emergency shelter and service to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking. Ms. Hoffman has served as the president and CEO of the Underground Railroad since 1994. And whereas under Valerie Hoffman's leadership in that direction, the Underground Railroad has added vital services for survivors of abuse, increased agency revenue from $300,000 to $3 million, led 2 successful capital campaigns to help agency growth, and funded the Mid-Michigan Human Trafficking Task Force, among many other accomplishments. Whereas Valerie Hoffman has set the example for others as an exemplary citizen whose good works and dedication help to improve the quality of life for many citizens. We give honor and recognition this day for the deep commitment of Valerie Hoffman to support, strengthen, and sustain others. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Dennis D. Browning, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, on behalf of my fellow council members and the citizens of this community, do hereby extend this appreciation of our esteem, our expression of our esteem, appreciation, and gratitude to Ms. Valerie Hoffman for the positive impact she has made in our community over the past 23 years. We congratulate Ms. Hoffman on the grand occasion of her retirement and extend our very best wishes for continued success in all of her future endeavors. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Saginaw to be affixed this 8th day of January in the year of our Lord 2018. Signed, Mayor Dennis D. Browning. Council members Floyd Clark, Mayor Pro Tem, Michael D. Balls, Annie Bench, Clint Bryan, John Humphrey, John Milne, Brenda F. Moore, and Damon L. Tibbs, and our city manager, Timothy Morales. Congratulations, and if you would come forward, we'd love to graduate. Invite Ms. Hoffman back to the podium to say a few words if she would like.
Good evening. Thank you very much. When I got the call last week informing me that you wanted me to come here and do this in my honor, I was overwhelmed. I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm grateful for your support and your acknowledgement of the time that I have spent with the Underground Railroad and the accomplishments of the organization. Nothing that has happened in these 23 years happened by myself. It has been with just incredible support from a community committed to supporting victims of crime, for being there for people when they most need it. That has been overwhelmingly grateful for from day one. But I'm also very grateful to the staff, to the board, to the donors, to everybody who has made all of the things that have happened in the 23 years possible. I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm so grateful to the city of Saginaw and to this council and the employees of the city of Saginaw for making it possible for all the things that have happened. There's some people that I just have to mention. Tom Miller Sr. Comes to mind when we wanted to move into our new facility. He was there for us. John Stemple, when we were working on some buildings, were there for us. Kana Franklin from the Block Grant Department, always very supportive. Phil, I'm going to get his name wrong. Things, really helped us. Would take our names, take our properties off of the GIS system so that batterers couldn't find victims. Every day, every time we asked some support or needed something, your staff have been there for us and for victims, and for that I'm grateful. Again, I'm humbled and I'm honored by your recognition of my work, and I am so grateful for all of you, and I know that the work will continue and it will continue to be supported. Thank you very much.
Public hearings.
And before we begin our public hearing, the purpose of a public hearing is for the public to address council as a whole and for council to receive comments for consideration when action may be taken. Speakers must limit their remarks to the subject of the hearing. Begin by stating your name. The main presenter or designated representative will be allowed 15 minutes. Other speakers will be limited to 5. Speakers may ask general questions but shall not ask questions of individual council members, city staff, or the audience. And the public hearing is not a question and answer session.
Our public hearing is in regards to a request to consider an amendment to an obsolete property rehabilitation certificate application at 107 South Washington Avenue.
Miller is here to address us.
I am. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, City Manager. I'll spare you all of the the obligatory comments that I usually make regarding these matters. You've already acted on this application twice. You approved the original application before the project actually began, and then you approved the transfer of the certificate when the new owners took possession of the property. This is just a matter of housekeeping, essentially. We're only transferring the Oprah certificate on the Bancroft building, and the reason is because when you fill out an application for an Oprah, you put down the estimated amount of investment that you plan to intend to invest in the property. The Carol and Mark Bodner estimated those upgrades to be about $4 million. When they sold the property and did the accounting when we were preparing for the transfer, they realized that the amount of money that they put into the Bancroft building itself was about $6.6 million. And so working with the clerk and with Lori Brown and the Treasury Department at the state of Michigan, it was recommended that we amend the original application to reflect the increasing investment. So essentially same project, just a matter of housekeeping, and I'll be here for questions at the resolution period of the program.
Else here to speak reference the obsolete property rehabilitation certificate application for 107 South Washington Avenue. Second time, is there anyone else that would like to speak reference the public hearing for the obsolete property rehabilitation certificate 107 South Washington? And third and final, is there anyone that would like to speak reference this public hearing? Being none, council members?
Move to close the public hearing.
Move the motion to close the public hearing, and it's been supported. Is there any further discussion from council? Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
We are now at personal appearances.
And before we start personal appearances, as we begin tonight's business, we welcome your thoughts and input. If you come to the podium, please introduce yourself and state your home address. To be helpful, let us know if you will be speaking solely or on behalf of a group. All speakers will have a 3-minute limit, which is timed by the clerk, so be sure to cover your main points. Hearing from the citizens we represent is very important to us. We ask that you speak slowly and clearly so we don't miss what you have to say. Finally, since you are speaking as a representative of all our citizens, we ask that you be courteous and respectful to the members of the public present, to the citizens watching SGTV, and to this council so that we can give serious consideration to your concerns. All follow-ups will be referred to city staff. Madam Clerk, our first public speaker.
Our first speaker is Dennis Borchard.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Borchard. I'm Managing Director of Saginaw County Road Commission. And it's a pleasure to be here. But I want to let you know, when you witness something great, why not share it with people? And that's exactly why I'm here. I'm here to give a letter of appreciation to your fire department. And I'm going to start out with the letter, and I'll make it short. I know I only have 3 minutes, and I did bring my glasses. Thank you. Oh, I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Browning, City Manager Morales, Chief Van Loo, and Fire Marshal Ralph Martin, and City Council. Thank you. When I mean we, I want to let you know it's Saginaw County Road Commission, our managers, and everyone there. Would like to take the opportunity to thank the Hess Street Fire Department and the fellow stations that assisted in stabilizing and stopping the recent fire that developed at our Saginaw County Sheridan Road Maintenance Facility on 12/17/17. This facility houses approximately 50 pieces of our road maintenance equipment along with tools and supplies that are used to maintain the 1,850 miles of roads within Saginaw County. The majority of the equipment in this building are the snow removal trucks that are used to keep our roadways clear for the motoring public. The value for a total loss that would have amounted to millions in equipment alone. Under the circumstances, our loss was minimal compared to what we would have had and what we are grateful, very grateful. One snow truck cab chassis were a total loss, while another one is damaged but salvageable. There were some smoke damage throughout the building and remaining equipment. Electrical damages within the immediate area of the fire also has been addressed. Your Hess Street Fire Station team, located only 3 blocks away, was critical in minimizing the damages that could have been. Their response was quick. Their efforts were huge in controlling the situation. It's understood and unfortunate that the Hess Street Station is closing as of January 2018. We would just like to extend our greatest thanks for their time and effort in keeping us all safe. The follow-up and constructive feedback that was completed by Chief Chris Van Loo and Fire Marshal Ralph Martin was extremely informative and appreciated. The recommendations that were made were valuable and implemented immediately. We can only hope sometime that this would never happen again, but if it does, the information that they provided allows us to be as prepared as possible. Your entire team is to be commended for their dedication. Their efforts are truly appreciated. Sincerely, Saginaw County Road Commission and myself. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Melody Jackson.
Hi, my name is Melody Jackson. I stay at 2330 Snelling. I'm here to talk about I was done wrong by the city police station in TV5. Let me explain. On April 25th, 2017 at 2:02 a.m., I was reading a book when I heard shots. When the shooting stopped, I realized they had shot my house windows, my TV, my security door. My house was shot by 9 times. And the reason I'm upset about with the police department is because my neighbor across the street had a severe camera, and the next one door to me had a camera. So if they would have came out and did their job, they might have could have caught this person on this camera, which the police said it was too dark to see, but I'm sure if they would have brought in the camera, they could have, blowed it up to see what was, who was the shooter was. And they probably could have saved more lives. But then I called it the rescue squad on the 28th to see can they help me with my windows and my doors and things to get fixed. And so they came out, they did a footage, April 28th of 2017, they did a footage for me. And they said that they would see can they have me fix my windows and stuff. So I ain't heard nothing from the police department, or I didn't hear nothing from the rescue squad. So therefore, me and my grandson, who we only reside there, he's 14, and so I had to tape up the windows, waiting for the detective and the rescue squad, but tape still on my windows. And they might have didn't, I might have didn't die in that shooting, but they killed me mentally because I've been a citizen for 59 years and I never did ask for help. I called everywhere to help me. I pay taxes, and everything must I pay taxes for is the service that should have been helping me. So I'm here, and I'm very disappointed of the city of Saginaw from nobody coming to me, my rescue, to help me, fix my home. And I didn't get no police protection on helping me find who shot in my house. I could see if they didn't have evidence, but they had evidence. They could have detected, they would have sent. Now, they called after I called to come down here. Evidently they heard about it and they've been calling me. Okay, now the severe cameras, my neighbor, she don't have hers no more. My son had lost his phone. So they should have been to my home. They would have, got all this right. So I'm very disappointed and I'm very sad. And like I said, looking at them holes in my house like that, and I'm trying to save my money for my house taxes, so I don't have the money to fix my windows and doors. And so that's why I had to come here for somebody to listen to me, to help me to see why I couldn't get no help when I needed it. And all I ever did was help people. But now I need help and ain't getting none. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Joyce Seals.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joyce Seals. I live at 2559 North Woodbridge, Saginaw, Michigan 48602. And tonight I come to urge you to support the name change of 2nd Street to the Reverend Roosevelt Austin Avenue. On the merits of his exemplary life, his impeccable leadership, his outstanding community service, this request is made. He has been a catalyst all over this city, urging community members, churches, and other organizations to help solve community problems, and has served as a leader in all of that. And plus, he's been my personal reference as well, and I've always got a job when he gave me a reference, because his name is outstanding in this community. So I asked you tonight to please consider his application. It preceded your new ordinance that you have written. So it should be considered under the merits of your old system. And I know that you will do that. And I thank you so much in advance for taking this under strong consideration. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rosa Holliday.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Rosa Holliday. I'm at 6261 Greenview Place in Bay City. I've come to ask you, we've been before you, and this has gone before the council. We went to the Planning Commission. We got the permission there from the approval, the Planning Commission, and now it's back before you. So I'm here to ask your approval tonight to renaming 2nd Street, Reverend Roosevelt Austin Boulevard. And as the mayor said, Reverend Austin has worked just tireless, and he continues to work. He's working now on behalf of others. He's a humanitarian. He's served not only Saginaw, but this country. In fact, we will see people coming in for this celebration. It's going to be not only just 1 year, it will be a yearly homecoming for people, which the city would benefit from this. The revenue coming from the city, his children for years to come, grandchildren and members of the church, members of the community and state would be able to appreciate that. And so I asked you to, if you would vote in your voting this evening to approve 2nd Avenue. The business there supports it. The residents there supports it, and we supports it. And I'm asking if you would vote to approve 2nd Avenue as Reverend Roosevelt Austin Avenue. This celebration would be a 3-day celebration starting on his birthday, August. That's when the rollout would be. Well, we're going to do the rollout, and that's when activities will start. And this will be for years to come, celebrating. So I'm asking if we would do that tonight. And thank you so very much.
Our next speaker is Thomas Mudd.
My name is Tom Mudd. I live on White Avenue in the east side of Saginaw. The Mudd family's been there since 1938. This past year, we had 2 petitions for name changes in the city. The first one, of course, was to change the name of the Johnson Street Bridge. And I appeared before the Planning Commission, and I gave them the history of Johnson Street and the bridge, the first bridge being built in 1878. Johnson Street was our oldest street in the city of Saginaw, and of course the bridge assumed the name of that street when it was built. And it was named for Daniel Hardin, who was a real big shot in Saginaw in the late 1840s and during the 1850s. I am currently president of the Saginaw County Hall of Fame, which was established in 1964. And since that time, over 140 significant Saginawians have been elected to the Saginaw Hall of Fame. But there's one thing that we stipulate in the Hall of Fame in order for a person to be qualified to be elected. And that is the person has to be dead for 3 years before they can be nominated. Then you have the Saginaw County Sports Hall of Fame. They actually do honor living athletes, whether they're individuals or a group. But how do they honor them? At their annual dinner, they have this wonderful book that's given to all the people that come to that annual dinner, the induction banquet. And at the Castle Museum of Saginaw County History, they have a special section to honor them. And now we move on to the names of the streeting. This 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, 5th Street. You'd make you think that somehow those numbered streets don't mean anything. They do mean something, and they are very historic place names. The Glasby and Gallagher addition to Saginaw was in the late 1850s, just after we became a village in East Saginaw. That's how old those place names are. And there was a reason why they were there. They were there so that before we had directories, people could easily find out where they were living, because you had numbered streets, and usually you had place names or people crossing those streets, which made it easy in the city grid for people to find out where other people were. I'm afraid if we allow this to happen tonight, we are going to set a precedent. Even if we have an ordinance, somebody's going to come forth and say, well, you did this for Reverend Austin, why not us? The other thing I worry about is the disruption on that street. And my last sentence would be, definitely, Reverend Austin deserves to be honored, but not this way. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paul Versiglio.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, City Manager. My name is Paul Versiglio. I live at 2035 Vernon Street in the city of Saginaw. Most of us have engaged in street or bridge naming conversations in different contexts over the years. In doing so, we must consider some standard naming procedures adopted by cities across the country. Some are: only name streets or bridges for deceased people. Only use names of admired people. Recognize substantial individual contributions. If possible, avoid changing the name already on the street or bridge. Be prepared for controversy over naming choices. Yes, street and bridge renaming can be controversial because of a dislike for the new name, the changing of a respected traditional name, or confusion from altering a familiar name used in city travels. It is also controversial because it is seen by many as a way to rewrite history. Renaming a street or bridge is about claiming a certain voice and a certain power over how a city looks. It is about remembering a specific person, as was done with a flurry of renaming streets after Martin Luther King. Cities also face significant costs to renaming streets and bridges. Costs include updating websites and maps, notifying emergency responders, changing street signs, notifying mapping companies, and notifying the U.S. Postal Service and package delivery services. Additionally, changing a name also impacts residents and businesses. They must change addresses with friends and family and business contacts to ensure timely delivery of mail. Also, residents and businesses must be in favor of the name change before the city considers imposing these costs. However, instituting an honorary street dedication policy would allow the city to honor deserving individuals and groups without requiring changes to the official map. examining best practices used by cities across the United States, an honorary street name dedication would not be problematic and cause disruptions to existing street grids or have financial impact on the city. Yes, Saginaw has many worthy people. Yes, we can recognize their individual contributions. But we must remember to avoid changing the name already on the street or bridge and preserving history. And streets and bridges should not be named for people who are still alive. A prudent course of action may be to consider using an honorary dedication policy to recognize the legacy of Saginaw's civic leaders. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Willie Haynes. Terry Pruitt.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and other city officials. My name is Terry Pruitt. I reside at 1469 Allendale Drive, Saginaw, Michigan. I appear before you this evening with a simple request. I seek your approval of the recommendation of the City Planning Commission to rename 2nd Avenue in honor of the Reverend Roosevelt Austin. This is the man that I know. I've known him for more than 60 years. There is no question in my mind about the very significant impact he's had on literally thousands of lives throughout this community, as well as the community as a whole. He is deserving of this honor. For those unfamiliar with his accomplishments, this is a man who provided leadership when he stood against redlining and housing discrimination in the 60s. This is a man who publicly and vociferously fought to desegregate our local schools. This is a man who went into the streets in the summer of 1967 to help diffuse extensive rioting and racial turmoil in this community. This is a courageous leader who has fought inequality and discrimination his entire life. In my personal situation, he's partially responsible for my ascending to direct a city department a department at the age of 26, when he demanded that the city leaders give me a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I respectfully request that you approve the recommendation of the City Planning Commission. I implore you to give this man his honor while he yet lives, while he can know of it, relish it, and enjoy it. One of the issues that was mentioned was the cost. There are a number of us who've pledged to assist the city in the expense of this renaming. So with those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is Bishop Larry Camel.
Good afternoon, City Council members, Mayor, and City Manager. I'm Bishop Larry Camel. I reside at 2985 Welland Drive in Saginaw, Michigan. I am the CEO of Parishioners on Patrol, also the pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Cathedral. I am here tonight to echo the request for Dr. Roosevelt Austin, the renaming of the street, 2nd Street. I believe that Dr. Austin has served his community tirelessly in the clergy, area of clergy, civic leader. He has changed many lives in this community. I think that he deserves this honor while he does live. He is a living legend. He's at the age now where we need to recognize his efforts that he has done for the city and for the community. He did marry me and my wife some 30-something years ago, so I do have great respect for Dr. Austin. And I believe many clergy in this community, all over the community, respect a great leader who deserves to be honored while he does still live. And that is my request tonight, to echo all of the words that have been said tonight. We urge you, City Council, to make the decision to honor a man who is well deserving while he still lives. Thank you.
Mayor, that takes us to the remarks of council.
And I remind council members of a 5-minute limit, and we begin with Councilman Clint Bryant.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I'll pass this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been, first of all, Happy New Year's to everyone. For all of the people listening and those in the audience, I'd like to thank all of the public speakers for speaking, and I'm sure that we can come to some kind of agreement to where everybody can be comfortable, I hope. The other thing is, I'd like to thank some community people who helped make Christmas for some families. Every year for the last 5 years, I've adopted families. Well, I've adopted them, but I've had some Secret Santas, who we won't mention. But our Secret Santas made people's Christmas beautiful this year. They were really, really excited. We helped the veterans, a VA vets family. We helped a young man who we call our turnaround student, who went from, he could have been in gangs and in trouble, a DE student. He is now an ABC student. They honored him with an Apple tablet. There was a young baby that was being adopted, and family really couldn't do it. They bought him toys and clothes. Then we had families that we helped. So I just want to do a shout out to all of those people that were involved, and you know who you were. Thank you so much for helping make citizens have a beautiful Christmas. Next year, I hope that we can get more people involved in helping people to have a good Christmas. It doesn't take much. It just takes that sometimes just that kind thought of saying Merry Christmas. Once again, Happy New Year's, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but since I'm really anxious to get to the next topic, I will pass.
Okay. And
I know who I am. It's okay. I will pass. I will pass. I will pass as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. I'm eager to get to the next topic as well. But I just wanted to. I see Ms. Melconian is in the audience. I just want to congratulate her for her recognition as Saginawian of the Year. Thank you, Ms. Melconian, for your service. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to congratulate all the Saginawians of the year, but I did have special mention for Debbie. I worked with her in her own neighborhood association, and she's quite active when we have the citywide meetings. And I also thank her for answering the call to serve on the Human Planning Commission for her neighborhood. Just a short reminder, since the fire chief is not on our schedule this evening, to remind our citizens about fire safety. We've seemed to have had a little spike in fires with the cold weather, and I know that keeps them busy, but it's a very dangerous time of year to be out fighting fires, so for the safety of all, a little extra attention on that. I wanted to thank all our public speakers tonight on the various subjects, and mention in particular we're going to be looking at the ordinance on the renaming of the street. I find that everyone is reminded of us of Roosevelt Austin's achievements, but I attended the City Planning Commission meetings about this, and one of the things they mentioned in their approval motion was wanting to do this without setting a precedent, and I don't think you can do a thing and divorce it from setting a precedent. So this will, if approved, change the way we look at this subject. I wanted to thank the speakers on both recommending and not recommending approving this. I did also want to note that when you have a street name that is a living person, it can also lead to misdirection of the mail. So that is an additional issue to look at on that when we reach that ordinance. And that's all my remarks. All right.
I too shall pass.
Michael Ball.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the citizens for coming to the city council meeting this evening, to express your views on issues that concern you the most. To Mrs. Jackson, I'm sure the city manager's office will get in contact with her and let her know what they can do to help the lady out with whatever we can do to help her out, Mr. Manager. I appreciate that. And as far as 2nd Street is concerned, I would be more than happy to see Reverend Austin's name on that street. I remember years ago that street wasn't a very nice street. We used to have a lot of people who you didn't want to see walking up and down that street years ago. I know that for a fact. And renaming it, I understand the names on some of the other streets who have prominent people names on those streets, but for the streets that's 1st and 2nd and 6th and stuff like that, I don't think that would be a big interruption to our city. There's only 11 blocks. Reverend Austin has done a lot of things in the city of Saginaw, I know for a fact. I have personal reasons why I probably wouldn't mind that street getting renamed too, because I was in a tragic accident there in 1966, and there was 4 people in the car, and my grandfather was driving that vehicle, and I'm the only survivor. So renaming it Reverend Austin would be an honor to my grandfather who died in that car accident. By naming it after him, I would really take a lot of pleasure in knowing that. I happened to attend a funeral 1 block away from there. My uncle passed away last week, and the front door was 1 block away from where his father passed away. And that happened to be 2nd Street. And then here it is, we're talking about it today. So I don't have any issues with naming something after an African-American leader in our city of Saginaw. We have a lot of streets named after a lot of people that done things years ago, 1840s, whatever. But here it is, we have a giant in our community, and we can honor him that way for the things that he's done in our community. I'm all for it. So thank you for letting me share those thoughts on that. I'm looking forward to 2018 being a great year in the city of Saginaw. There's some things I'm working with, some projects I'm working on to help youth get involved in skilled trades. I've been attending a lot of meetings talking about skilled trades. Even the governor's people came to our Career Opportunity Center. I had an audience with him there and some of his people, and they said that we're going to need at least 300,000 skilled tradesmen just in the state of Michigan, in a few years. So I'm looking forward to trying to get some more electricians, pipe fitters, steam fitters, electricians, and the other trades that we need here in the city of Saginaw, get some good paying jobs for our citizens. I retired as a pipe fitter in a plant in 2007. And because of my trade, they asked me to come back to work in 2011. So that proves that they really need some skilled tradesmen in our area. There's people that I know for a fact that live 50, 60, 70, 80 miles away to drive back and forth to the Saginaw area for these skilled trade jobs. And I think we want our citizens to be productive members of society, and we need to give them some of those good paying jobs. So I'll be working on that and be looking forward to delivering some good news in the city of Saginaw this year with skilled trades. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me share that.
Well, I'd also like to thank all our speakers tonight, and certainly we have some deliberation that needs to be done here. Just a couple things. Last Friday night, schools were closed last Friday, but sporting events went on, and of course I had to attend a sporting event out of town. My grandson played out of town, and it's not about the basketball game, and it's certainly not about my grandson scoring 31 points. What it's about is last Friday night was cold. I mean, it would have to warm up to be cold. It was terrible. It was terrible. And about 11 o'clock, we're coming back to town, and I'm at Bay and Weiss, and I see all these yellow flashers. And then I see the barricades. And then I see our city employees out there in minus 10 degrees or 20 degrees trying to repair that water main as quick as they can. And my hats go off to all those, whether it's the firemen responding to the fires, the police officers, or any of our city employees that have to go out in this kind of weather. And I know it's the job, and I know they signed up for it, but boy, I give them a lot of credit, man, for going out there. It just seemed like when I seen that, the temperature dropped even further for me. I thought, man, this has got to be 100 degrees below. But I really, my hat's off to all the workers, our city workers who are out there in this kind of weather. If you know of anyone who is struggling with heat issues in their homes and stuff, please, they can call the 211 number. I think it's the 211 number, just 211, and tell them what the problem is, and they're going to put you in connection with people who can help with that. So please, I know this is a very tough time right now for that. So we want to acknowledge all our city workers who are out there. And with that, Madam Mayor, I am going to end my... Well, I'm sorry. You want... if you would take over this seat for the rest of the night, I think it would really be nice. But I'll remain. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Fine, thank you, Mayor. We are now at the reports from the manager.
Thank you. A few comments, and we have a few presentations. So first, I'm going to ask the Mayor Pro Tem to give his presentation on the Tokushima visit.
To do so, I will step to the podium, and I think we need the screen and okay. Wow, that's getting rough. Okay. Well, while we're getting everything ready, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Browning, fellow council members, Manager Morales, it's unusual for me to be up here in this position. So on the other hand, I'm very happy to be able to be here because I get to introduce a number of our delegation members to the sister city of Tokushima, and I'd ask them to stand up. Well, and they've been very patient. So thank you for your patience as we proceeded through the city business. Starting with the first and foremost is Yoko Mosner. She's our emeritus for anything to do with the sister city relationship with Tokushima. So she was with us probably the 5th or 6th trip she's made to Tokushima. Her daughter, Christina McGinnis, is also here. Robert Mee is here in the front. Michael Woolley and his wife made it. She couldn't be here tonight. Yvonne Becker and her daughter-in-law, Jody Becker, Paul Chafee, who many of you know, and Renee Harvey. And my wife, Diane, who also went with us. Go ahead and have a seat. Also present is Gene Mosner, Yoko's husband, who has tolerated this all these years. So, with that, we now have a short presentation that starts with the travel we did. It was over 6,500 miles in about 13 hours. I do want to give special credit today. Paul Chafee basically created this entire PowerPoint presentation. So I really want to give a thanks to Paul. I couldn't have done it without him. He put it together. He made it work. So thank you, Paul. It was a long trip, about 13 hours. From there, as you can see, we passed by Mount Fuji. I did not see it, but some people on the other side of the plane did, and Robert Mee was able to get this picture of Mount Fuji. It's a gorgeous picture. I just would have liked to be able to see it in person. Next, we landed in Tokyo and traveled then to the Awa Odori Airport in Tokushima. And here, as you can see where Tokushima is, and here's a few facts about Tokushima. It's in the Shikoku region, the Tokushima prefecture. The mayor is Mayor Akiyoshi Endo, who we did meet, and there's more you'll see of him. If anybody wants any more information, we can show you this, but we'll move on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these things. This is a view taken from Mount Bizan, which is on one side of the city of Tokushima. It gives you an idea of the size of Tokushima. It's about, population-wise, about 4 times the size of Saginaw. I suspect it takes a much bigger geographical area than Saginaw. This is the welcome we received at the Awa Odori Airport. There were representatives from both City Hall, Tokushima City Hall, and
from the Tokushima International Association, waving American flags, cheering. It was spectacular. We were really amazed at how well we were received. This gives you an idea of the itinerary for the 3 days in Tokushima. It was crammed full of things to do and activities that they had planned for us. The first was we arrived that night, and we arrived at about 5:55 Tokushima time, and then had about an hour and a half to get to our hotel, get changed, and then go to a dinner at a neighboring restaurant. We made it though. Some of us felt rushed, but we did it. And here is the restaurant. We were treated royally. It was really wonderful. This was the layout, and you'll see the names of all the other people who attended. I do want to point out we had a high schooler with us, Michelle Becker, Jody's daughter, who was there. And that'll come up a little bit later. But we also had, let's see, Sarge Harvey was there. Dr. Wahid Akbar joined us. Sherry Rosenbrock. Let me see, Teresa McGinnis, who is Christina's daughter, was with us. And I think that is everybody. This is in here just to show you how well the Japanese present food. And this is where the kind of way it was presented at all the meals. It was unbelievable. The idea that they eat with their eyes is something that Paul wrote, but it's true. They really do enjoy the sight of, not just the taste of. And it does enhance the flavor and the enjoyment of the meal. The next morning, we got to bed that night, probably a little bit late after the meal, but the next morning we traveled by bus from the hotel to Tokushima City Hall. And this is how we were greeted. The mayor with flowers and representatives of Tokushima International on the left. We had representatives of the City Hall, City Council on the right, or I might have it reversed. I think it's the reversed, yes. City Council members are on the right. And then 100 or so staffers from City Hall out greeting us, again, waving American flags, cheering the fact that we had come to Tokushima from Saginaw. They really appreciated the delegation. In the City Council chambers, we then had the opportunity to do the exchange of gifts. Here is the Mayor Indo accepting and demonstrating, showing off the City of Saginaw's gift of the Michigan, the map of Michigan on the clock that was presented from Saginaw to the mayor for the city of Tokushima. At this point, I'm going to go back real quick. You don't see the rest of the city council members, but they're just sitting there very stern at this point, as if they're in a regular council meeting. That changed when we did this. We gave them the Spirit jerseys. Mayor Indo and the council chairman Miyauchi, if I pronounced that correct, I hope I did, both put them on and demonstrated them for all the council members. And they loved it. They were smiling, they were clapping. It was a complete change in atmosphere. It was wonderful. It was just energetic. Mayor Indo also presented us with, here we go, a picture I can show. This is made from the indigo dye for which Tokushima City is famous. The dye itself is the blue, and it was a gorgeous, gorgeous photo for us to City Hall, or to the city of Saginaw as a gift. There were more gifts, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. That was the main one at this session. Immediately after we left City Hall, we went by bus to the indigo dye factory. You'll see up in the upper right-hand corner is the factory where they have all the looms and make the cloth from which they make clothes. Lower right is the actual indigo plant from which the dye is made. The far left are, as you can see, Yoko and Jody dyeing their sample. We were allowed, all of us, to dye a sample of cloth, white cloth, that you then dipped in and made your, basically a handkerchief. And Dr. Akbar is there with the one he made. Each person made a different kind based upon a different style of tying or constructing it. The factory was really quite interesting because it was basically out of the 18th century. It was all run by one engine and by belts. Belts and pulleys, the whole thing. The entire factory was run that way. Absolutely fascinating. After the Indigo Dye Factory, we traveled to the Mayor and Council Chairman luncheon, where, as you can see, Mayor Indo on the second from the right and Council Chairman Miyauchi on the left were with us and greeted us and presented luncheon for us. In front, and here you see the City of Saginaw flag on the left and the Tokushima flag on the right. We got to mingle with a number of the councilmen and other individuals from the city there. Next, we travel again by bus up the Mount Bizon, up the top of Mount Bizon. And in fact, the picture you saw was taken from this location. Mount Bizon is named after the eyebrow shape of this mountain around Tokushima. We were asked to help plant a cherry tree, which is the cherry blossom is the flower of the city of Tokushima, the official flower. And we helped plant the tree. You'll see they fly at this location, the flag of America and of Japan. And this is also the site of the Saginaw gazebo. This is the gift Saginaw gave to Tokushima quite a few years back. It is a traditional American-style gazebo, and in fact, this one was actually designed, as I understand it, after the gazebo in Borchard Park in Old Town Saginaw. There's the entire delegation have an opportunity with Mayor Indo for a photograph. After the Mount Bizon, the interesting thing was Mount Bizon, the road up to it, everyone was sort of holding their breath, both going up and both going down, because it was a very narrow road, a big bus, and a little cramped when it came to corners with other buses and other traffic. But we made it safely, and it traveled then to the Tokushima Castle Museum, where we were presented with a performance of the traditional tea ceremony in Tokushima. Some of the ladies that were present there were some of the same ladies that had come to Saginaw last year and presented the traditional Japanese tea ceremony here in Saginaw last year. On the lower right, after the tea ceremony, they did a traditional tea ceremony musical performance for us. After the tea ceremony, we were invited to go into the garden surrounding the Tokushima Castle Museum. This was the Zen garden there, and it was magnificent. I've never been to a Zen garden before, but I understand it now. And I think everyone here in the delegation does too, because it was really peaceful and just a beautiful, beautiful garden. From there, we that evening had dinner with City Hall staffers, and the staffers gave us the dinner. Another fine example of the food that was presented to us. Magnificent, except for someone who doesn't like seafood. There were a few that didn't care for seafood. I love it, so it was no problem for me. But for those that didn't, it posed a little problem. But it was a wonderful, we were treated, again, magnificently. The next morning, we went to the Shikoku University, which is named after the Shikoku region itself. As you can see in the lower right, it says International Cultural Building. That was the building that we were taken to. The university has an actual cultural building where they have students, that's where they have classes and different kinds of information, education regarding the cultural exchange. This is the president of the university speaking to us about the exchange and the importance of the cultural exchange between Tokushima and the city of Saginaw. While we were there, we learned that there were students in Saginaw Valley University from Tokushima's Shikoku University attending Saginaw Valley. They have an exchange program as well. So this was, to us, an honor to have the opportunity to share that with the Shikoku University. And the president was there. There was 2 or 3 professors. It was quite an experience there as well. From there, before we left, this is, we had to put this in. The students or the staff, whoever in the university, there's a daycare. And these are the daycare kids. They were walking, getting ready to cross the street as we were heading back to the bus. So we ran into these students, and some of our members had a great time just exchanging greetings with them. The kids were cheerful. They loved it, and it was a lot of fun. You see Sarge up here on the top right by the flagpole. He's having a great time. Next, we've traveled to one of the temples in Tokushima. Tokushima, the region, has 88 temples, and many Japanese will do a pilgrimage to all 88 of those temples in the course of a year. We didn't try 88. We did go to one, and that was the Ryozen, I'm probably slaughtering that name, Ryozen-ji Temple. And it was a wonderful experience as well to have a chance. I think that's the temple I think I even got to ring the big, huge bell. It just amazing. From there, we traveled to the Tokushima High School. Now, as you can see, we were again greeted joyfully, American flags with the Japanese flag, by dozens of students from the high school. And the interesting thing is, we had an exchange. The principal was talking to us, and a number of other people were gave short speeches. But a number of these students were the ones that had come to Saginaw last year in the summer with, and later we were given pictures by one of the ladies who'd been there of their visit with some of these students here in Saginaw. So that's something that will be available for anyone to review later as well. As you can see in the lower right, the 2 students really, Michelle Becker and one of the Japanese students really hit it off. And in fact, as I understand it, they're now pen pals. So, yeah, well, she liked her hair apparently. After that, this was going to be our last evening in Tokushima, and it was a Tokushima International Association sponsored dinner. About 100 plus people, and there Yoko was given a special honor by a gentleman who I believe was one of the, if not the original president of the Tokushima International Association from 1960s, I believe. Yes. And he was very happy to have the opportunity to present this recognition to Yoko for all she had done over the years of promoting the international relationship between Saginaw and Tokushima. We then, at that point, we also had, we'll get to this in a second, but before we do, some of the issues, okay, that's good. We were presented with some entertainment. Now this is a sample of that entertainment. I'll cover a little bit more in a second, but just before we got to that, we were given a number of gifts. This is a lamp. Collapsible. We were given another indigo dyed photograph, or not photograph, but picture of the traditional dance, which you just saw. We were given, this is something I'll cover in a second. We were given a traditional Japanese fan. We were given, these are all for the city, a traditional tea ceremony bowl, and a pair of traditional Japanese sandals for our display. Then, oops, I must have gone back one. Okay. We had the opportunity after the gift giving, and they gave us the demonstration. It was a demonstration of 2 kinds of dance, both traditional Japanese dance. One was a male dance and one was a female dance. The male dancers danced one way, and the female dancers danced another. Then they decided that it would be nice if some of our delegation were to join them. So we did. We sort of did a snake dance doing their dance through the hall. And they appreciated it so much, they brought us up onto the stage and gave us a recognition for that, which they said the ones that were best each got one of these. So we all got it. We all got a fan, which is, if you look, in the hands of the men who are performing. And you can see it as well. The men had that identical fan. The women had one a little bit different. That's part of their traditional dance. Oh, I want to step back. If you see the flags again, Tokushima, City of Saginaw, and the Shikoku region. The next morning was our goodbyes. We were sent off by representatives of the City Hall, representatives of the Tokushima International, and again, right in the middle, at least 3 of the ladies who had been to Saginaw last year and performed tea ceremony here. Yep. And during the dinner before, 3 of them came up to me and were just so happy that we were there. And they talked, you remember, we were there last year, and they were just so excited to see us. So the exchange, I think, was tremendous on behalf of the city that we were there. We left there that morning and traveled to Kyoto and had an opportunity to visit something called the bamboo forest. Our idea of bamboo is probably 15 feet tall, thereabouts. These were over 100. And most of them were anywhere from 4 to 5 inches all the way up to 6 inches in diameter. This is commonly known here as lumber bamboo, and it is. It's just absolutely magnificent. We couldn't help it. All of us kept taking pictures of each other eating because the food was so good. And then we were able to travel to the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto, and this is a fine example of the architecture in Japan. And it was surrounded entirely by a body of water. There's a huge history of this. It was a former imperial, Ryoko was an imperial member of the Imperial Palace. It was a retirement home, is that right? Yes, for the member of the Imperial Palace. We took the bullet train. Actually, it was from Kyoto to Tokyo, but these things are fast. We were doing 200 kilometers, about 150 miles per hour, and Paul even had a chance to go on GPS, go on his phone, and actually measure it, and it was almost 150. So we knew it was what they advertised it as. And that, in Tokyo, we had a chance to go to the Imperial Palace. We didn't get to go inside. Apparently, it's a little too, they're not open for the general public, but nonetheless, we got a chance. That is a moat. We all have heard of European moats. You're thinking 20 feet wide. This is 100 feet wide, and it's several miles long, around walls several miles long. It's absolutely astounding. Well, that was the last thing that we can cover today. On the way back, we had the wind at our back, and we made it back in about 11 hours. Same distance, really, but I think everyone here would agree that it was a trip that was well worthwhile, and it was good for us, and it was good for the sister city. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Pro Tem Floyd Clark and wife for filling in. Thank you so much. I knew I was going to miss this trip, but I guess I didn't realize how much I would miss it until I saw the pictures. But thank you for representing the city of Saginaw. Delegation, thank you for representing the city of Saginaw and the greater Saginaw area, because it does spread out much more than that. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. And, you're welcome to stay. Welcome to stay, but now would be a good time if you wanted to sneak out. We appreciate that. Thank you, Yoko. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody from the delegation.
In the meantime, we can get ready for our next presentation. Is that correct?
I'll make some comments first. Get to Ms. Church's presentation. The police chief did have his annual press conference last week to announce the crime stats, and again, we did see a decrease in Part 1 violent crime in the city by 3% last year, and Chief made a good point to talk about the teamwork that's gone into reducing that crime, and I think he has the press conference, and I think that it shows something that maybe even 5 or 6 years ago wouldn't have been done, but he has representatives from the Sheriff's Department, the County Prosecutor's Office, the Michigan State Police, 911, City Council, FBI, and local Saginaw Police Department members all attend that presentation, so I think it's a great opportunity to see the team that works together. We also have the prosecutor and the sheriff, and MSP I think declined to speak, but it's a great opportunity to show the decrease in crime and the teamwork that goes into that. The City Finance Director, Lori Brown, and OMB Director, Yolanda Jones, and I did make our trip to Lansing and visit with the Michigan Department of Treasury Local Unit Division. I think it was a good opportunity for us to talk about Saginaw and the steps that we've already taken to try to address some of our OPEB and pension costs. They did give us, I think we were there for at least an hour and a half meeting with them, and I believe pretty much the entire division was there. We met with about 30 people, so we did have a brief opportunity to talk about the new legislation as well. So I thank Dr. Scorsoni, who is heading up that division right now, for giving us the opportunity to meet with them, and I think it was good to get in there. He's only going to be there through this summer, and then he'll be going back to teaching at Michigan State, so it's good to take advantage of the opportunity while he was there, and hopefully we continue that outreach to them and get to continue to have access to talk about things we're doing. And it was good, I think, to meet with them when they're still putting together some of the steps in that legislation that passed. They're not, the legislators pass the law and the governor signs it into effect, but then that department is left with setting up how do you administer that, how do you review the plans. So it was good to get in there before they've done that, so we can maybe get a step ahead on that, and they also know who we are. And Beth Church is going to give her presentation for the mid-year changes to the personnel complement, and I want to mention that included in that mid-year adjustments that she'll be covering tonight, if council approves those changes, there will be a promotion included with one of my management team members. So if I could have a second after the consent agenda to talk about that a little bit more, to continue on this update, I would appreciate that. And with that, I'll ask Beth to come up and present the mid-year changes.
Good evening. I don't think my slides will be as colorful, but hopefully they'll have some useful information for you. As you know, twice a year I come before you and go over any changes that we're proposing to our personnel complement. The management review team is comprised of the city manager, our budget officer, our HR director, and myself. And whenever we have vacancies that become available in staffing, we take a minute before we fill those positions to make sure that they are at the appropriate pay grade? Are there changes that need to be made? We also take a look at how the functions have changed over time within our departments to make sure that our employees are adequately recognized for their contributions to the city. So twice a year I come to you and give you a recap of those recommended changes. This is the mid-year adjustment. The ones that you approved this evening would be effective retro back to January 1st of this year. So as I take you through this, the first slide that you'll see are some positions that we are adding to the personnel complement. And the first one is creating a Director of Neighborhood Services and Inspections. And this would be a promotional opportunity for John Stemple being made a department head. And he would continue to be over the inspections area with some additional duties that have to do with neighborhood services and being responsible for administration of the master plan. The other position we are adding to staff is one full-time police officer, and the funding for that position is being covered by a crime prevention grant. So none of that police officer cost is affiliated with the general fund. It would be all through the grant. Yes. Chief? How long?
The grant is good for a one-year period. However, we've gotten this grant in the last 15 years.
Good, thank you.
Some other changes that we're making to the inspections area in tandem with creating this Director of Neighborhood Services is eliminating the Deputy Chief Inspector position and bringing back, which you'll see on a further slide that I have, bringing back a change to the Chief Inspector position. So bear with me as we kind of go through the little confusing changes within inspections. The second slide has to do with some reclassifications, reallocations, and title changes that we're making to staff. A number of these are in the finance area to better reflect some of the changes that are going on within that department. We are changing the name of our customer service representatives to treasury clerks. Now, those are the ones that take your water bill payments, any other payments being made to the city. In recruiting for that position, we have a lot of confusion as to what the nature of that job is. A lot of people think that's a telephone representative, or they're, taking phone calls from our citizens, when actually they're performing almost in a teller capacity. So we thought it was a better reflection to change that title to Treasury Clerk and to also take a look at the pay grade for that position. We surveyed some local municipalities, compared what our salaries were against theirs, and also took into consideration the fact that they are the front line to our citizens. They are the ones that have that day-to-day contact with them as they bring their payments forward to the city. So that is being increased from a grade 10 pay scale to a 13. And in tandem with that is the customer service coordinator. That also is having a change to its pay grade and a title change to the treasury coordinator. We're also making a change to our payroll specialist. In addition to making sure all of us get paid on time and the correct amount, this position is now also responsible for being a team leader and a work coordinator for the accounts payable function. Those two positions are going to work very closely together. In fact, the accounts payable coordinator is no longer just the backup for payroll, but each pay cycle they are actually doing a part of the payroll processing to keep her skills fresh and to also play a more active role in that payroll function. So both of those positions are being reallocated. And we're making a change to the purchasing assistant. With our new purchasing officer, there's been a change in some of those duties performed by the assistant, and a reallocation was warranted in that area also. Getting back to the chief inspector position, what we see happening then is with the promotion of John Stemple to the Director of Neighborhood Services, that leaves the chief inspector position open. And you'll notice that we're recommending that that pay grade be lowered slightly to what it was a number of years ago. When we had Jim Hodges retire as chief inspector back in 2009, it was the M69 at that time. When John Stemple went into the position, it was an M69. And as he took over some additional duties, that pay grade was elevated. Now that those additional duties will be going with him to his director position, we found it appropriate to take a look at what the pay grade was for the chief inspector and make that recommendation for a change. The other change in inspections is to reallocate the environmental support specialist to a second office assistant 3 within the department. That gives them 2 office assistant 3s. They will be cross-trained in each other's job duties so that if one is gone, they will be able to continue to perform with efficiency in that department because they will know each other's clerical support positions. And the last reallocation is a pay grade increase for the block grant administrator, which is Kana Franklin, to the Deputy Director of Community Services. All of these reallocations total $42,880. And the final thing to go over with you is over the past 4 or 5 years, the state of Michigan has been making gradual increases to minimum wage for its employees. January 1st was the last step in their 5-year plan to increase those, where minimum wage is being increased from $8.90 to $9.25 an hour. And we have had a handful of entry-level employees that will be receiving that increase to the new minimum wage for a grand total for the next 6 months of $911. So in summary, you can see that we are adding 2 positions to staff, but eliminating 1, which is the Deputy Chief Inspector. So we have a net gain to staff of just 1 full-time employee. Total cost for all of these for the next 6 months, January 1st through June 30th, is $38,732. And if you look over to the side, you'll see that the total cost to the general fund is $11,639, with the remainder being to the non-general fund. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Council members, any questions?
Departments that have revenue sources coming in, such as water, wastewater, state funding. The general fund is that is money coming in from the taxpayers and state shared revenue.
The police officer, is this an internal thing or a new hiree?
It's a new hire. Yes, we have someone who is going to be in the January Police Academy.
Questions, council members? Yeah, well, go ahead.
Picking these candidates out of the city of Saginaw, or are they coming from someplace else, the academy people?
The chief and I are making every effort to hire locally. I believe the last 4 that were just sworn in, there may have been 3 of them from the area, and this one starting in January is local.
Council members. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth, and for the presentation. And one final item I'd mention is not to forget that the next council meeting is on Saturday, the 20th. Our strategic planning session, so doors open at 8:30 and we usually start at 9 o'clock. We'll get the any packet and the agenda out to you fairly shortly. The draft agenda we presented to the mayor pro tem this morning, so I don't think they had any changes to that, so we'll start finalizing that, and we're going to have I think 3 guest presenters, and then Lori Brown from the city finance department will be presenting, and then we'll end it on a presentation that I'll do that the mayor pro tem asked for. So with that, that concludes the management update.
Thank you.
Mayor, you are now at the consent agenda.
And the agenda's been available at City Hall and on the city's website and on SGTV 191. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, leaving room for exceptions. It's been moved and supported. Are there any exceptions? Are there any exceptions? Being none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
We are now at reports from boards, commissions, and committees, and appointment of board and commission members.
Does any council members have any reports from any of your boards or commissions that you're on, other than the written ones we received? And there are no appointments at this time. So,
Question, the city manager asked for time to present after the consent.
Just one comment. I would like to, since you passed the consent agenda, I would like to announce that John Stempel is the Director of Neighborhood Services and Inspections, so that'll be effective immediately. That's the... So that is a department head level position. John has been acting like a department head since he started with the city about 20 years ago. John has been John's been functioning like a department head for some time. As you know, we did eliminate the deputy director and the director position for that department that John works in inspections, and we moved some of the duties around, but John has been performing a lot of the duties that the director of that department would have performed in the past. So I think it's time that we make that move. So that'll give him some more autonomy there, and I think it will benefit the department and the city as a whole. So if you take a moment after the meeting and congratulate John for his promotion.
Okay.
Okay, we are now at introduction of ordinances, and we do have one this evening, is to amend the official city map by renaming 2nd Avenue to Roosevelt Austin Avenue from Washington Avenue South to East Genesee Avenue.
Need a motion to introduce. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion?
I'm gonna.
Yep, go ahead.
It's, with much respect to Reverend Austin, my concern, and Reverend Austin is an outstanding, hardworking, and highly respected member of our community. He's a gentleman and a man of God, and he has contributed significantly to the city of Saginaw. To me, naming a street after an individual should be a recognition of the legacy of that individual, and not an opportunity to give the person a chance to see their name in light, so to speak, before they pass. By definition, the legacy of a person requires that person to be deceased. Reverend Austin, to my knowledge, is not. And with that, I cannot, in good conscience, at this time, agree that it is appropriate to honor any living person by renaming a street. I would have no problem with some kind of recognition other than renaming, considering all the costs and expense that is applicable to not only the city, that will be passed on to the committee petitioning, but to all those others residing on that street who have to change everything from their address to their websites, to their personal social media pages, everything that which a name is associated, name of a street. To me, that is going beyond what the purpose of renaming a street for an individual is. It is beyond addressing, it is prior to addressing the legacy, and the legacy should be for a deceased person. So I cannot vote for introduction of this ordinance for that reason.
Council members, any other council members comment? Go ahead.
A little on my previous comments about it. Trying to declare that we're not setting a precedent when we are. The city has renamed streets or come up with a new name for a street in the past, and we have reserved that ultimate honor for those who have passed away. In particular, some who have passed away in the line of duty and made the ultimate sacrifice on our police force. I'm reminded of one. So I would agree it is more, to use the Mayor Pro Tem's term of art, a legacy that you leave, not current recognition.
Councilman Michael Bowles.
Yeah. Considering the work that Mr. Austin has done in the city of Saginaw, I don't know of any streets that we got named after any African Americans besides Leon Austin and maybe a couple others. But naming a street for Reverend Austin could be one of the best things we could do as a city council in this city. Honest, you know, you guys got your opinions. I disagree. I mean, we got people named the streets that we haven't seen, don't know nothing about it for hundreds and hundreds of years. And here we got somebody that's doing something for the city of Saginaw every chance he gets. Trying to speak truth to power about things that need to be done to this city. And if we don't have people that speak up like that and we don't honor them, then I think those heroes would die and we won't have anybody else to stand up and do the same thing that he done. So to help keep young people looking out to doing the right thing, I think that we should name this street after Reverend Austin.
Any other comments? Any other comments? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are we back where we started? I guess I want to ask city manager that. We had this discussion about something else we voted on. If we got committees who approve it, what is our role? What are we supposed to do at that point? If we've got committees who approve stuff, and then it comes back to us, I guess I need some clarification.
Well, recommendation, so it's up to council to make the final decision on that recommendation.
Right.
Right. You know, but the council doesn't always adopt the recommendation of the committees and commission as well. That's an informing part of the work that they do, but again, it's always a recommendation. So ultimately, it's you make the final decision.
The recommendation from the commission, was that unanimous, or was that a split vote?
I believe it was a split.
It passed 4-3, but there was some concern that same thing we're hearing at this table.
And it would not have come back to us if it would have been defeated.
Right, but I'm just saying though, it was very close vote, 4-3. Okay. Yep.
Come to the council, any recommendation has to come back to the council. Yes. No, it would either way. Whatever their recommendation would be reported back. Yes, yes, okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Tibbs,
Yes.
Councilmember Bench, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, Councilmember Moore, Councilmember Bryant, Councilmember Balls.
Yes.
Councilmember Humphreys,
Yes.
Councilmember Millen,
No.
and Mayor Browning.
Yes.
We have 7 yes and 2 no. I would just like to make one comment that this was an introduction of ordinance. It's not a final approval, and it will be laid over for 4 weeks rather than a charter. It's a statute requirement for a 4-week layover. Yes, yes. Minimum 4 weeks, yes. Okay, that takes us to resolutions, Mayor. The first one this evening is establishment of new polling locations for all future elections.
Need a motion to approve.
Support?
Is there any discussion?
I guess, are we gonna get this out in a timely manner? Because you know, last time we changed polls, people were so confused. So are they gonna get it?
We are doing this well in advance of the state law requirement. And yes, they will all get a new polling location registration card, voter's card, which is required. And then we'll do press releases and that too to help get that word out.
So when you get the information, can I have some so when I'm out and about, when you get the new poll information, if I can get some from you, I sure would appreciate it when I'm out and about. Thank you.
Question, we have a motion and seconded, so question on the motion?
Not on the, I'm just hoping this will be on the website. I mean, at a minimum, we'll be able to tell people, go to the website, pull it up, you'll find it.
Clerk Santos, the elimination of Thompson Middle School, was this at the request of the school board for operational reasons?
Stakeholders, they meet with our election commission, and we review every election process, concerns, address any issues that we have. This was just a consensus that it would be betterment for the facility reasons and space and parking to look elsewhere for these polling locations to accommodate the voters better.
Discussion. Go ahead.
I hope that's the last time we change the polling space. I'm getting sick and tired of it because people get so mixed up on where they need to be voting at, and we discourage people from voting. I'm tired of seeing our polling places keep getting moved. So hopefully this is the last change.
I agree. Last change we did involved precinct boundaries. This does not. So this is hopefully less confusion. It's just a new place to go. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Next resolution is to approve the obsolete property rehabilitation application amendment for 107 South Washington Avenue.
Need a motion to adopt. Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Mayor, you are now motions and miscellaneous business.
Any other business council members come before us?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is that supported? Yes. All in favor signify by aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.